But here's another example.
Oh, that's interesting.
This is a different piece in which this is an emu shell. Now an emu shell has a very dark outer layer, and the deeper you go into the shell, the lighter the tone gets. So in order to create this image, I'm playing off that difference between the light and dark tones.
That is really beautiful.
Wow.
This piece is done by a process of etching. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing with wax, but I'm using, instead of the traditional kistka or stylus, I'm using actually an artist quill pen, such as this one. And I'm drawing with wax in order to create these very thin, fine lines and doing this kind of figure work. And then I'm sitting the egg in vinegar. And by sitting it in just straight vinegar, the shell eats the egg and gets to the next layer down, which is a shade lighter.
Oh, wow.
You follow me? And
Yes.
then I'm covering that area with wax and then going deeper. This one also has a little...
So it has almost a bas relief.
Right, so if you can feel that, you can feel
wow.
that edge that
This
gets
is
created.
incredible.
So this is but this particular piece is an image of, I don't know if it's not a camera at this point.
Yeah.
This is an image of a traditional Byzantine iconographic image of the crucifixion of this, and it's different. It's the difficulty in showing up is the, and there's also a little gold gouache. So you see the Mother Mary and Saint John underneath the cross,
so beautiful.
where Jesus is crucified. It's a typical. It's a Byzantine iconographic image of the crucifixion. I thought it was apt for Good
All right,
Friday.
so on Friday, let's let people know where the show is and what time and all of that. So it's 12 to 8 is the actual exhibition.
Right, and it's at Envoy Gallery, which is at 131 Christie Street. It's on the block below Delancey.
Just south of Delancey.
Just south of Delancey.
And then at 8 o'clock, you're going to teach a workshop.
Right, I'm going to show people how to do the traditional egg decorating.
And I'm going, and I've been to another workshop, so everyone should come because I will be the worst one there.
By the way, I think you have the coolest boots, and I just want to give folks a chance to
thank
see
you, yes.
these really cool gold lame boots.
They
I've
are
never
beautiful.
seen anywhere else in the world. Those
My new Doc
cool
Martens.
Doc Martens.
Sprayed up,
Very
yes.
good.
So should we show a little bit of the technique?
Okay.
Because it's
All
quite
right.
amazing, and it's really, like I said, having done it,
All right.
it is not easy to control the wax.
Right, that's one of the tricks
It
that I
truly is.
always tell people in doing this, is that you have to make sure that the wax is flowing properly
Yes, because I was
and
a
not
globber.
overflowing. You're a
I
globber.
tended to glob. But then after a while, I realized if I just work that into my design,
Right, well, yeah,
then
then it works.
right.
Maybe
but when I
just
was
for a
trying
moment we
to,
should move a couple of these that are in. That are,
Okay.
Okay,
that
just to
was
give
for
us a little
blocking the
more
view,
space
yeah,
to
gotcha,
see.
Gotcha,
yes.
understood. Okay.
Great.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna recreate this design. I thought I'd bring
Okay.
this along. It's a very simple design. It's actually a traditional poppy design, because poppies grow in Ukraine just like from Central Asia over. And again, it's a floral design. It looks very solar, actually. That's the interesting thing about it.
It is. It's very sun-like.
Yeah, it's very sun-like. And that's
So
what
you
this is
scoop
all
some
about.
of the wax into the top,
Right,
and then you melt it, and it comes out the bottom.
right.
And then here's where the control issue.
And here is the control issue. So this is always the trick, is how to create a straight line. And what I
On
always
an
show
egg.
people is that I use my pinky. It's all on the pinky. And then it's literally about, as long as your line's drawing, you just... What I tend to do, which I show folks, is that I tend to move the egg, not my hands. So my hands become almost like a lathe. And I'm turning the egg and just holding the stylus or the kistka very steady in order to produce a straight line.
And this requires a thought process too, because you're going to dye it in stages.
Right.
So you've got to think over, these lines that you're doing right now are going to be white,
Correct. Yes.
because when you take off the wax, it's going to reveal the white crisscross line that you're doing right now.
You got that right. Thank you. Thanks. Right, right. Producing. This is the phenomenon of batik, which is what people call a wax resist
And it's like a
dyeing
backwards
process.
art, sort
It's a
of.
backwards, right? You're kind of working in the photo negative.
Yes. So it does take a little bit of thinking
Right, so
over
you-
what you're planning to do.
Right. You need to figure out ahead of time what you want to do, where it's going to be exactly in order for your design to work.
And then with the dye baths, you're going from the lightest,
To the
to the darkest colors, because you're going
Right.
to continually put it into different dye baths.
Right. Get a little more wax in there. Exactly.
And I think one of the other amateur sort of errors was too much wax.
Right.
Because I kept refilling mine and then big clumps coming out.
Right.
I must have used like 3 times the amount of wax that a normal person would use to do this.
Right. Now let me just give you a little. One of the things that's interesting, wax refers back to bees, which refers back to the sun.
That's right.
So again, you've got this phenomenon that is all about, in a sense, worshiping the sun, worshiping the spring, and you have these different natural elements which you connect into that through this process. So again, this whole process of creating these eggs is a way of celebrating spring. And it really, it's been
So-
done
so
in a lot of
right.
cultures all around the world.
Yeah.
We're talking about, this particular style that came from the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe. And, boy, but look at how round that isn't.
Still better than mine.
Not bad.
No one should worry about coming to the workshop. The,
No, exactly.
The
See,
worst
again-
egger has already signed up, so.
Right. So yeah, and this is, again, it's not about necessarily the artistry. Really, in terms of doing this as a practice in creating talismen, which are, again, these are considered power objects, it's more of the intention behind it is more important than the literal artistry.
Now this is associated with Easter in the Orthodox religion.
Right,
Eastern Orthodox?
it's become, right, because that whole area, once it got Christianized, it connected with Easter. So for instance, there were symbols that have gotten, either applied to meaning Christ, like for instance, the triangle image, which appeared before, often was something that related to actually fishing. But of course, Jesus was the fisher of men. So in that kind of illusion, then the triangle takes on a Trinitarian or this notion of fishing kind of notion. And also, again, the fish image, which is an ancient Christian symbol, takes on an image to represent Christ. Again, it's a fish. However, there were water spirits that were important in early, the Slavic peoples had this whole thing about water spirits, and so the fish probably represented the water spirits before, but then it becomes a Christian symbol later on.
It's all growing out of sort of pagan, natural.
Right. Again, this is
Based.
this is like I said, this is a pre-Christian practice that was done. Mostly it was done by women, and there's this whole consideration about it was done late at night. See, you get all these elements that really make it look like witchcraft in a way. And I don't, the term, I'm going to only do half of this just for
Sure.
time expediency, and I'm going to put it,
Now here's the dye bath.
and I'm going to change this color. We're going to do, instead of yellow and red, we're going to do red and black.
Okay.
Because I figured it might show up better
Yeah.
in terms of once it's finished. And so I'm going to put it in this dye bath, and it'll take maybe just a minute, because this dye I
Okay.
know is very
Well, why
strong.
don't we show some of these images
Yes.
that Paul's got
Okay.
while we do that, and then you can sort of tell what they are.
All right, guys. Let me just set up here for a second, and we'll get everybody